Really?
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 The rematch.
Oh,
and
wait.
I'm gonna tell you right now, it was fucking horseshit. It was fucking horseshit yet again. I don't give a fuck. You knew it was coming. If you didn't realize that I was gonna fucking come at this shit right now, then I don't know what channel you've been watching. This motherfucker right here.
The Flash?
Really?
Really?
See this?
Thank God I got that on my system.
Get the fuck out of here right now. This is the motherfucker, alright? So let's talk about this fight. Superman blowing Goku's brains out, in essence. Fucking lobotomizing the motherfucker. Walking through a Kamehameha like it's nothing. Like fucking dancing like fucking, I don't even know.
I don't recall Superman dancing his way through a Kamehameha. Though I'd pay money to see that happen. Ryan's money to be exact.
What the fuck were they thinking? The only thing I will say is that the graphics of what they created look fucking awesome. I will say that looked way better than the first time around, but this fight was horseshit. It was fucking flat out horseshit.
You spotted that the fight was horseshit 4 times now without ever going to why it's horseshit. It won't surprise me if shit lost all meaning by the end of the video.
Yet again, and they're using the same reasoning. Oh, Superman has no limits. Just because Superman and his abilities is bullshit, and he's a poorly written character that he just has plot convenience at every given turn, that does not mean that he's going to be Goku, and that does not give any validity to the fight.
I'd hesitate to call Superman a poorly written character, seeing as he's been around and popular for over 3/4 of a century. I doubt he'd be as popular as he got if he wasn't ever written well. But even if Superman was never written well, the quality of one's writing does not dictate who will be the stronger character. That's ignoring how there are people who think that Superman is better written for his character trying to be a god living amongst men.
I mean, just, yet again, it was just bullshit. And then they try to give King Kai, I told you, Goku, you can't defeat him. Like, shut up.
Yes, shut up, obvious Dragon Ball fan. Your opinion that Superman would win in spite of properly liking Goku more as a character is not welcome here.
And then one of the things is like, oh, last time they gave him the power pole or whatever, right? And in retrospect, I will say that, okay, they were trying to give him a little bit of an advantage because it's a magical tool or whatnot. They didn't have that this time. Just everything about it was just like, Superman walks through Kamehamehas like it's nothing now. Now it doesn't affect him or anything like that. When just throughout the entire fight, him punching him and shit like that, he was getting his ass kicked, but a Kamehameha means nothing. He fucking melts his brain down and then has respect to hold him and stuff like that, even though, like, it was just so much bullshit. This fight was fucking bullshit. Like, I don't give a fuck. You want to say, you're a Dragon Ball Z tard, just face the facts. No, at the end of the day, every which way Goku is better than Superman. Flat the fuck out.
Thank you. You've just proven all those that called you a DBZ tard correct. You immediately dismiss anything that anyone opposing you says and, without any logical explanation or evidence, claim that Goku is better in every way than Superman. You told someone who was clearly more supportive of Goku to shut up because he understood why Goku lost. You were ignoring Goku's limits, which is part of the character you so adore, just to say that Goku could beat Superman. If that's not being a DBZ tard, then please tell me how you define being a DBZ tard, because I think your definition is just like you, full of shit.
You want to talk about, fuck the strength shit, because granted, yes, it's death battle, yes, it's a fight thing and whatnot, but what's more important at the end of the day, in my opinion, is a better written character and a better written story. And majority of the time, from the stories that I've read of Superman, they're just the same old shit. But at the end of the day, Dragon Ball fucking Z is about a main character that is struggling to be the best that he can be and always trying to outdo his past limits or whatever. And that's something you can't take away from Dragon Ball Z. I don't give a fuck.
So you acknowledge the point of Dragon Ball Z being about surpassing limits set before you, yet you're still willing to say that Goku could beat someone without a limit. I don't think you listen to yourself talk. I really don't. Furthermore, you say that Superman is all of the same old shit, but then you go on to say that Dragon Ball is all about overcoming limits. Can't always trying to overcome limits be seen as the same old shit? In fact, you can argue there's a formula in the Dragon Ball series. Bad guy shows up, shows he's a meaniehead. Goku can't beat him. Supporting character gets a power-up. Supporting character loses. Goku gets a power-up. Goku fights bad guy. Goku wins. While we're at it, what stories of Superman did you read? Maybe that's why Superman may be the same old shit to you. But I highly doubt that you're well-versed in Superman to really make a judgment call like that.
But this fight was just like, absolute horse shit. Like, I just watched it on the live stream that, you know, Death Battle had. I think they're at a con or some shit like that. And their reasoning that they use is the same reasoning they used last time. So in essence, if you were going to go by that logic of Superman has no limits, there's nothing you can do to stop him, then why the fuck did you do this to begin with?
Goku vs. Superman was a debate that was around before Death Battle came to be. Why can't they throw their 2 cents in? The second time may not be as good of a reason as before, but both have gotten new powers since, and people didn't get the message from before. Of course, judging from your reactions, you still didn't get the message.
What's the point? You're using the same exact logic or whatever. Like, so you couldn't even pinpoint how strong Goku is as a Super Saiyan God, but you decided to use it anyway. So what exact method did you use? I mean, the research that they used in this one was very piss poor compared to most of their other ones. It was just like, wow, Superman has this new technique that he can, you know, become a bomb and this and that, but like, Goku, you don't really even, like, have a specific margin of how strong he is as a Super Saiyan God.
True, they gave no specified strength to Goku, but that's not entirely their fault. Dragon Ball is pretty vague on how strong Goku is as Super Saiyan God. However, seeing as it still has a limit, one can assume that a character without limits would win in a fight.
All the reasonings I've used in the past, I mean, at the end of the day, Superman grabbing him in that chokehold, Goku could have gotten out of it. He's done it time and time again.
If he's gotten out of it time and time again, why not show one of these times or explain one of these times? Maybe there's more to what Superman did that constitutes Goku not getting out. Maybe not, I don't know. But without any evidence, why should anyone, especially those not well versed in Dragon Ball, give a shit?
There's just so many different things, but like, honestly, the biggest bullshit, in my opinion, one of the biggest bullshits was Superman walks through a Kamehameha, like, hey, it's just a Kamehameha. Like, get the fuck out of here.
Now's as good of a time as any to tell you why Superman withstanding Goku's Kamehameha isn't complete bullshit. In Dragon Ball Z, if you're more powerful than your opponent, you can withstand practically any ki-based attack your opponent throws at you. A prime example of this is when Goku initially fought Frieza. He took a rather direct Kamehameha, powered up with a Kaioken times 20 by the way, and Frieza was barely scratched up at best. Goku even pointed out that Frieza was not using his full strength when he was hit. So imagine how much less Frieza would have taken if he was using 100% of his strength. Oh, and there was this happened, that happened, this too, and lastly this. Sure, most of these weren't done by Goku as a Super Saiyan, let alone a Super Saiyan God, but the point remains. Since Death Battle thought Superman to be stronger, and provided actual evidence to support their claims, Goku's ki attacks couldn't do much against a stronger foe. Besides, if Broly can practically walk through a Kamehameha, why can't the Man of Steel?
That was bullshit. I don't give a fuck. Fuck Superman is what I'm feeling right now. Granted, I've had some good time with the character, but this motherfucker right here, Son Goku, way better than that motherfucker. Superman can eat a dick right now is all I care.
I don't give a fuck about this, but fuck Superman. He doesn't want to be my husbando. Dude, if you don't give a shit, then why did you make and post a 5.5-minute video on the matter?
Like, I don't give a fuck. Let me know what you think if you've seen it. I don't care. This is rantings from a fanboy, whatever you want to call it, but it is what it is. That was bullshit yet again. Screw Attack cheated our boy Son Goku out of a victory. I don't care. Call it bias, call whatever the fuck you want. I know that was bullshit yet again. At the end of the day, there's so many different things that Goku could do to Superman. Even in the little article thing that they mentioned of a fight that, I think it was some magazine, I forget which one that they did of Goku versus Superman, they basically said Goku would win. But time and time again, Screw Attack just wants to troll. They just want to piss off the Dragon Ball Z fans.
Okay, let's assume they didn't make the match to reflect more on current information between the two, or whatever other reason you can think of, but because they were trolling. And that you calling them trolls is not because you dislike the outcome of the match, but because they want to intentionally piss off Dragon Ball Z fans. Why are you giving the trolls your attention? That's exactly what trolls want.
When Goku could be across the universe at the fucking snap of a finger, putting his fucking two... Come on.
The guys at Death Battle outright stated that Superman was so overpowered that he was on a totally different level than Goku. You seriously think that instant teleportation would help? The only way that could happen is if Goku knew where Kryptonite was, could concentrate long enough to teleport there, teleport back to where Superman was, and abuse it. But even then, that would be completely out of Goku's character, which is why he didn't use it in the previous Death Battle, and would generally be seen as an outside force that, unlike the sun, isn't a constant. something Death Battle usually tries to avoid. Unless it's a Kuma TH doing the research, but that's besides the point.
Let's cut the bullshit here, people. Let me know overall thoughts of the Death Battle. I mean, I'll give him credit. It looked fucking awesome. The visuals looked awesome, but it's just like, for example, a video game. Just because it has awesome graphics doesn't make it a good story. Because it was a shit story and a shit scenario that they put together where Superman just lobotomizes Goku and this, that, and the third. Like, fuck that shit.
I wonder, how many times did it say shit during the video?
It was fucking horseshit. Fucking horseshit. This fight was horseshit. Flat out horseshit. This bullshit. Again, it was just bullshit. Him punching him and shit like bullshit. Fucking bullshit. The same old shit. Absolute horseshit. Some shit like that. The biggest bullshit. One of the biggest bullshit. That was bullshit. Bullshit yet again. Bullshit. Let's cut the bullshit. A shit story and a shit scenario that fuck that shit.
21 times, yet we seldom got a reason as to why for any one of them. How many objective facts did he spout?
Superman's written poorly.
That is subjective as fuck and you know it. The only thing you even remotely brought up was Goku's instant teleportation, but that only surpasses Superman's speed, not his strength or his durability. You're allowed to like Goku more. You're allowed to say that the Death Battle got an actual fact wrong, and you're allowed to not like the fight or Death Battle entirely. But just saying that Goku would win because you like him more is ignorant and overall fucking dumb. You want Goku to win? Prove it.
Okay, so if some of you don't know, just about a few hours ago, Screw Attack, this website, very popular, released a death battle, Goku versus Superman. Now, this has been a big battle for a long time.
And their resolution just twisted my nipples.
And honestly, this video, I felt trolled Goku big time.
So they were looking for a reaction out of Goku and his fans? That is what you were saying if they were, which they really weren't in the first place. Though, if they were, mission fucking accomplished.
I felt that it was a huge bias. Don't get me wrong. It was enjoyable. They put a lot of hard work into it, and I give them props for that, but there was such a huge bias against Goku in this one, and I'm going to break it down to you. First of all, they used the hacks Superman. They want to use the ultimate, stupid Superman. Like, how do you tell a story when Superman can push planets out of orbit? How do you even tell a story like that?
Well, that's easy. Just read Justice League of America, Volume 3, Issue 75, and any of the other comics that they showed that are evidence to him being able to do so. These are verifiable via continuity.
But, and for people that say that, oh, you're just an anime fan, or you're a weeaboo or whatever, I own the entire Superman, the animated series. I used to own a bunch of the comics. I'm a DC animated universe fan as well. I love all of that stuff, so don't get it twisted. It's not that I'm just, you only like anime and whatnot. I like both.
If you were such a big fan, then you would know that they based all of their statements and calculations behind Superman on evidence from the comics, movies, and all of the different animated series.
But honestly, they trolled, first of all, throughout the whole thing, just like story-wise and whatnot. You got Superman dissing Goku for his transformations. Oh, not another one, not another one. They kept on chastising. They made Goku look like an idiot, where he's like, oh, I need a sensu bean after just barely fighting. It's like, what?
Superman hit him in multiple pressure points that, if you know anything about the beliefs behind chakra and ki, these pressure points control the flow of ki, and that made Goku useless. They clearly covered Superman's knowledge of hitting pressure points as follows.
He's an expert in disabling opponents through pressure point combat.
So yes, he needed a sensu bean to free the flow of ki again.
Then, to slash up some of the credibility of this thing, you got Goku using a power pole while he's Super Saiyan. When's the fucking last time you seen Goku use a power pole while he's Super Saiyan? Really? Really? Really?
What the hell does it matter? The power pole is a pivotal part to Goku's fighting style, and he even used it in the Dragon Ball Z movies such as Tree of Might. So what if he used it while he was in Super Saiyan? Hell, I thought it was a nice touch and showed knowledge of Goku's fighting style.
Oh my gosh, it's like, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed watching it, but I think that it was just, they did it in a way to make it look like Goku is just, nothing compared to Superman. They showed stats and whatnot. They made it seem like Superman is faster than Goku because he could go to the sun and back within a minute or some crazy shit like that. And I'm thinking, what happened to instant transmission? That shit don't exist anymore. Goku could be on the other side of the universe in an instant transmission. And then in the battle, it's like, okay, so they're in the same universe in this theoretical battle, right? And yet Superman and Goku, or Goku doesn't know anything about Superman, or King Kai, aka Kai-Osama, doesn't know anything about Superman. He don't know, hey, just a heads up, Goku, I know you're fighting this guy. He can, he's weak without the sun. He needs the yellow sun to battery pack him. Instant transmission this fool across the universe to another planet. Goku wouldn't even fight on Earth. He wouldn't go Super Saiyan 3 against this monster, seeing how strong he potentially is. And
Oh, really? Well, then let's just go with what you're saying here. King Kai was not a know-it-all about everyone that Goku ever fought. Hell, he didn't know jack shit about Majin Buu or the androids. Now, as for Goku never fighting on Earth as a Super Saiyan 3 against an enemy with assumed immeasurable power, what did he do when he fought Majin Buu on Earth? Oh, I don't know, maybe say go Super Saiyan 3 and fight him on Earth.
honestly, they just made Superman hacks. You're trying to read my mind. Get out of here.
Which is a power he happens to have in the comics.
And Sensu Bean, he's using a power pole. They using GT shit in this. He goes Super Saiyan 4. So what? We're taking stuff from Dead Zone, where we got the power pole. We're taking stuff from GT that is not even a canon.
He had the power pole in Dragon Ball first, and at least one of the movies as well. As for GT, well, it kind of is canon in the anime itself, and you can't forget that Toriyama himself did work with the team that created it by not only designing the characters, but also helping lay the groundwork for the first saga of the series that included, guess what, Super Saiyan 4. Seems pretty legit to me, regardless of how GT actually was.
We're taking stuff from all over the place, but no, we got God Mode Superman. In all honesty, this was just some troll stuff. Like, all it is King Kai, hey, Goku, this guy, blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's go to another planet to fight. Oh, shit, you don't got no powers no more, Superman? What now? What now?
And what if he transferred him to a planet with a yellow sun, or even a blue sun? And guess what? The people at Screw Attack covered that in their video as well.
Such a troll fest. You got Goku's boot flying in the wind. And honestly, to me, it seems as though there was just like a huge bias. Like, these are like comic book fans going biased against anime. Because I've even seen an interview previously where the dude is like, oh, I was going to do one of Naruto, but I hate the characters. I hate Sasuke and all that shit. So you know that there's a bias against anime. And then you watch this and you see Superman's chastising him. You got, and you know, Goku's just there like a moron. Superman is faster. Superman is more stronger. He might be more stronger. Maybe I'll give him that. He might be more stronger when he has a yellow sun.
Which he had one throughout the entirety of the fight. Hell, Goku even blasted him into it, which, let's face it, Goku has done to other enemies before. And he probably assumed that this would have killed him, though with the complaints that you were raising, you seem to have a bit of bias against Superman. What was that you kept calling him? Oh yeah, the overpowered Superman, or the godly Superman, even though everything they said about him is verifiable in the comics as canon.
Instant transmission him out of there. Goku would not fight somebody that is that strong on Earth to begin with.
Majin Buu forms 1 and 2. Perfect Cell. And all of the Shadow Dragons. Nope, he didn't fight any of them on Earth, and none of their battles ever posed a threat to destroying the planet when they did their fights. No siree.
Goku would not use a power pole while he's Super Saiyan. Goku doesn't go Super Saiyan 4 unless he's using some garbage filler called Dragon Ball GT.
Hate to tell you, but it's only filler if something comes after it, which nothing did unless you count Dragon Ball AF, which is 100% fan-made, or even Dragon Ball Kai, which takes place before Dragon Ball GT. So sadly, going by the definition of filler, Dragon Ball GT is not filler.
But they were like, oh, no, we're going to use this. Honestly, that really pissed me off because it's so stupid. A lot of people are going to go around thinking, well, that settles it. We got all the facts. Superman defeats Goku in any battle. No. They're using, first of all, the God mode, hacks, bullshit. You can't write a good story because he's too strong, Superman, and you're using Goku. Like, how about using something that actually makes sense? Like, let's start off by chopping off this ridiculous thing. It's like if Toriyama just wrote a story randomly, like, you know, an extra different universe of Dragon Ball, and like Goku can move the entire universe with a single breath or something like that. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Oh, are you talking about how in one of the early comics from the 50s, Superman had the power that Screw Attack specifically stated they were not basing this on because at the time Superman pretty much changed his powers? You know, fuck it, I would just let them tell you about it.
Also, as he was retconned and rebuilt in 1986, we will be examining the modern Superman.
Considering Soup's pre-86 could make up new superpowers on the fly and destroy entire solar systems by sneezing, probably a good idea.
Your comparison is shit.
And honestly, the death battle, the outcome was really retarded and stupid.
Because you didn't like how Goku lost. I'm sorry. I can't help but think you will be biased towards Goku when your entire channel is devoted to anime. And well, look at your fucking room.
Goku can't use instant transmission all of a sudden.
That's easily explainable once again. Screw Attack will tell you why.
Its only flaw is that it requires concentrated focus.
It's no good. I can't concentrate.
When did Goku have a chance to really focus on performing instant transmission? During the entirety of that fight.
King Kai doesn't know nothing, Goku don't know nothing, even though they're apparently on the same exact freaking planet. I don't know. Goku uses a power pole now, I guess, when he's Super Saiyan. Let me know what you think if you've seen this. If you haven't seen it, check it out. And if you don't want to check it out and you just heard what I have to say, then you know what I mean when I say that Superman winning Goku, in my opinion, is dumb. They did a beautiful job with the animation and whatnot. I want to give them props. I don't want to sound like I'm a hater, but the outcome was just stupid. Plain and simple.
I don't want to sound like a hater, but I will make a 7-minute video about why your outcome to this battle was dumb, while ignoring all the research and extensive calculations you perform, thereby calling the people who made this video stupid as well.
Instant transmission is another son, because by them doing this means that any Kryptonian can be Goku. Any Kryptonian, you grab a Kryptonian, he can be Goku. Get the fuck out of here. Get out of here with that. Let me calm down from this rant.
Why are you getting so pissed over a video that Screw Attack made for fun? It's not like this will be wrote into canon for Dragon Ball Z. It's not like you can't have your own opinion about who would win this fight. Fuck, they were just giving their reasoning behind why they think Superman would win, while you think Goku would win. The difference here is that they actually are providing evidence as to why Superman won based upon research of both characters, while you're not giving any.
That's all I have for this rant. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Thumbs up for Goku. Thumbs up for Son Goku, because they gypped him out of this one. Goku pwned Superman in my book any day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Have an awesome day. I don't care how good a series is, you making people wait that fucking long for a season, no one is going to give a fuck. Well, I'm not going to say no one, because I'm sure there's still a lot of diehards and Attack on Titan is still very popular.
Nice small contradiction there, where you say if they delay the series longer, nobody's going to care, then immediately follow it up with, well, some people would care. I get this as a rant and all, but did you ever once look through your dribble to make sure stuff like that isn't present? Seriously, you are a YouTuber with a subscriber count of over 370,000. I expect better quality control from a YouTuber of that size.
So why the fuck are they putting this as a last priority? I'm gonna tell you why. Because they don't want for the season 2 to come out and bomb or nobody give a fuck at this point, and then all their gravy train is gone, because they've milked the gravy train of the Attack on Titan season 1 success to the fucking brim. I mean, we're having American people working on spin-offs. We've had so many different spin-offs, compilation films, live action, and if season 2 is anything less than the expectations that they have forth, it is going to destroy all that cash that they're getting based off the popularity of season 1, and that's what I truly believe is the reason behind them continuing to push back the anime of Attack on Titan season 2, and it's bullshit. I mean, what the fuck? People love this shit. Give us this damn season already.
See, while it is true that I have heard rumors about season 2 of Attack on Titan being released in 2016, but you claiming they are delaying it because they don't want it to bomb and lose money in the process is at best only a possibility, not a fact. I say that because for all we know, it could very well be a production problem. What if there's creative differences with some of the writers or the director? What if the animation is behind schedule, thus they have to delay it? I could go on, but you get my point. There could be a number of different factors that could be why it's being delayed. Also, like with my last point, it feels like you contradict yourself, because earlier in the video, you go on how we should have more or less gotten it. No! No, 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 no! And then say how they shouldn't rush it because it might turn out bad. Considering how much of a moneymaker Attack on Titan is, I doubt Studio Wit, let alone the cast or crew, would intentionally delay production, so it's less of a risk that it bombs. How about we wait until it comes out and see if the wait was truly worth it or not? Oh yeah, one last thing. I love how you show articles in your video and claim one of the writers confirmed it was getting released in 2016, but you don't even bother to cite your sources, let alone cite the article you used in the description. When you don't do that, it makes it come off as you expecting people to blindly take your word for it, as opposed to letting them come to his or her own conclusion.
Okay, people, so there's no secret that as of recent, there's been little inklings and little foreshadowings of a big change coming to the anime industry, in particular to the animation process as a whole. As the years have gone by, we're starting to see more and more use of CGI 3D imagery, whether it be in an Attack on Titan episode and people are like, oh my god, the CG looks terrible, the 3D anime, what's going on here? Whether it be the trailer for the upcoming Dragon Ball Super film that fans are split. Some people say it looks like a step in the right direction, while others say that it's just terrible. Like, why are we going this direction in general, considering we love 2D animation? We love what was provided to us in the Dragon Ball Super Broly film.
Wait. You're not telling me that your whole thing is that 3D animation is the downfall of anime, right? Okay, so these specific examples are going to be relevant further down the line in this video, but as a basic premise, this already falls flat on its face. But I feel like I'm going to be able to address the reasons why it does as I go through the rest of your god-awful video.
Then you get the Four Knights of the Apocalypse / Seven Deadly Sins trailer for the upcoming films that are coming straight to Netflix, and it's like, holy cow, we're going all the way 3D CG animation. Like, what's going on here? And I've been saying this for a little bit now, but I finally got the opportunity to make this video where I definitely feel like, in all honesty, no trying to, fear manga or anything like that, I definitely feel this could very well be the beginnings, the early stages of anime's downfall in terms of its popularity that it has amassed over the last decade and so, because, well, before we go into all of that, let me give you guys an understanding as to why I even arrived to all that, so that way it's crystal clear in you guys' mind and you get where I'm coming from and why I feel this way. Let's do it.
Yeah, no. Totally no fear-mongering. But we're seeing the downfall of anime popularity because some people in Japan learned how to use Blender good. What am I saying? Most of them are using Live 2D. Are you aware of what fear-mongering is? Like, you put it in the title. You literally sold this video to your audience on the idea that anime was on a downfall. Anyway, I'm skipping over your intro. Hey, sidebar though? We really still pausing in the middle of a topic for random-ass intro of you shrugging your shoulders while picking a fucking coat? Like, subjective, I know. But to me, it comes off as really, really lame. Maybe it's just me. Don't take that too seriously. That's not even the point of this video in the first place. Whatever, just brush it aside.
Okay, so in order to understand where I'm coming from, first of all, you got to look at, okay, why is anime and manga so popular right now? Like, there's a lot of different factors, but one of the variables, absolutely, there's no denying, is the fact that, in particular, in the West, back in, like, the late 90s, early 2000s, there was a small boom of Dragon Ball Z, Sailor Moon, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, there was a few of the more childlike anime that were popping off, and a lot of people became fans, in particular, young children. Like, I want to say, 9 or 10 back when Dragon Ball Z was a big deal on Toonami over here and whatnot. Like, I was a little kid.
Yeah, and some of us were a little bit older than you at the time and remember how it really started. I say a little bit, it really is a little bit. Alright, so here's what actually went down. See, the boom begins with Pokemon in 1998, even though Dragon Ball Z actually aired on Fox beginning in 1996, even though no one watched it, but the origins of anime popularity in the US go back way further than even that. So you're already wrong to call out Toonami as the originators, but I could see the argument for TBC. Discounting Battle of the Planets, otherwise known as Science Ninja Team Gatchaman, Gigantor, Robotech, otherwise known as Macross, and here's the two most important ones: Speed Racer and Astro Boy. Yeah, let's just set Pokemon aside for a second. You want to talk about discussing the first mainstream anime in the US? That's a prime candidate. Talk about discussing. What the fuck was that? But let's assume it starts with Toonami, which was originally intended to be an action block and not an anime block. A lot of the anime that crossed over were action shows, though, so it still fit. But yeah, you know what was part of that original lineup of Toonami? Voltron. Yet another mainstream pre-Pokemon anime. Hell, DBZ wouldn't even be in the lineup until August of 1998. Now, there's a pattern with a lot of these anime that were in Toonami's lineup during this time, and I'm sure you can already figure it out, but I'm not going to tell you yet. Because, boy, does it serve to kick a lot of your premise in the ass by the end.
However, back then, anime, it had its little glories, and then it kind of like fizzled out, I want to say, around like 2006, 2007, right around the time Toonami stopped their block, and just in general, everything started to fall apart.
First of all, Toonami stopped the weekday block in 2004, not 2006, and that's a weird time period to say that anime was starting to move out of the mainstream. How weird? Well, let's look at 2006. Let's see, this was the beginning of the US getting the Chunin exam arc. The most popular arc in Naruto. This was also around the time the US was getting Bleach, the 4th season of One Piece, and, when Death Note came out, in general... Yeah, seem to have forgotten how mainstream anime actually was, didn't ya? But I can explain the distinction of what was happening. See, notice you said that there were a lot of childish anime coming out. Like Dragon Ball Z, which is totally childish. I kind of get what you're saying with Pokemon, but most of these have an older audience in the US, which is why they got moved to a time slot more reflective of that older audience. Especially since fewer of these shows were being edited to remove mature elements, especially after Naruto's English release. There were other reasons for Toonami ending, not that it mattered much because Adult Swim kept the anime block on Saturdays, so it was really more of a consolidation of branding than anything else. And it was also around the time a lot of bad decisions were being made at Cartoon Network, but this isn't really about Cartoon Network.
And there was a bit of a time period of uncertainty for the industry as a whole up until about 11 or 12, back when Toonami returned, and there was a boom happening once again. And just look at it. What is something that is in common? Well, obviously the fandom, right? The fandom has to be the ones that jumpstart everything. And what's the change between that time period, the early 2000s, and going into like 2011, let's just say 12? The audience got older and had control of their life and what they wanted to see and do and support.
See, that sounds like it would make sense if people were watching all the same shows they were before, but that's not what was happening, pretty much at all. While there were some old shows being run, like Cowboy Bebop, most of the lineup was new. I think One Piece, not One Piece, one aspect, one show that was included in the 2012 relaunch lineup stands out as a reason for the perceived boom, though, even though it was just that the network we're talking about actually gave more shit about it. Ghost in the Shell, standalone complex, second gig. The sequel to the original Ghost in the Shell series, something that banked on nostalgia while also attempting to provide something new. And just think about that concept for a second. Adult Swim was already airing everything but Bleach and Deadman Wonderland in this time slot. But they just branded it Toonami so that it would be perceived as a nostalgic return, when it was the same shit that they were doing, but with Tom on the screen. Oh, I'll get to Tom later, by the way. But as it stands, your connection to the fan base, being the same people, is loose at best. If they were getting the same people they were before, then it wouldn't be worth it to bring it back as a branded programming block. The goal was to attract lapsed viewers more so than keep what they had, so why bring it back if there weren't lapsed viewers to bring back?
Because just think about it. In the year 2000, if I'm 9 years old or so, what can I really do to support other than, hey, Mom, can you buy me a Dragon Ball Z VHS tape? There's not much really control that I have. I can't go to a movie whenever I want of an anime or anything like that because, again, you're a child. However, when you get older, once a few years pass, once you start becoming an older teen or a young adult in your 20s and whatnot, now all of a sudden you have control. You can go support and buy whatever you want, as long as, you actually have a job and you're making money. You get what I'm saying.
Okay, so this is contrary. Let's just use you being 9 years old in 1998 as the base here. Right, so anime in your timeline falls off in 2006 when you were 17 years old. Do you already see the problem here? You're 17 years old, you probably have a... Holy crap, I just realized an actual reason for a decline that you completely fucking missed! Yeah, you even pointed out the if you have a job aspect with this too. A lot of people didn't have jobs from 2008 to 2012. You know, because there was a giant fucking recession. That would explain why Cartoon Network would be scaling back as well. They were making less money in a down economy, so they downsized the more expensive and less profitable aspects of the business. Cartoon Network doesn't really make as much money off of anime as in-house works, since they don't get all of the merchandising money like they would with an in-house production. So they ended it when the Toonami brand wasn't selling merch as much because, you know, the people who did have money were spending it supporting the anime directly rather than supporting the programming block. Since they would only make money on ads, then it's fine to keep the anime, but, you know, the branding, which is more expensive, would go away since people now had to pick and choose whether they were going to support the branding or the work. But let's get back to your broken view of it. At 17, it's likely you already had a job, assuming that the thing that totally existed didn't exist. Right, so you don't have bills, but have income, almost all of which is expendable. Do you already see the flaw with your logic, even if we remove the recession from the equation? So by 2012, you're now 23 years old, quite possibly just out of college, but according to you, you have your life together now. Even though you now have more bills, including student loan debt, and the soul-sucking reality of the world weighing upon you, mood. So, in other words, for some reason, the time period where more of your income is expendable is the time that you don't spend it on the thing that you like. Is that what I'm getting from what you're saying? Or, could it be that people were doing that, and the market share of action shows, especially for the younger end of the demographic, was also being filled by Western animation much better than it previously had been, thus why anime was not the predominant form of this entertainment in the West during this time period. Ben 10 debuted around the same time, too. You know, so, like, eat one, I guess.
Like, you can actually support that. So if you go from 2000 to 2012, now you're 12 years old, and now you're in your early 20s. Now you actually have a voice to be able to say, hey, I want to see more of this. I remember this from my childhood. And a big part of the boom that happened in the early 2010s of anime once more was the fact that it was a nostalgia thing of like, man, Dragon Ball was pretty freaking dope, right? Like everybody talking like, oh, I wish they would make more. They probably not, but I wish they did. And then boom, we have Battle of Gods. Basically, Dragon Ball was one of the things that led the charge, I would argue, into anime becoming mainstream as it is right now. It was definitely like, well, if the big dog did it, let's try it with this, let's try it with that. And little by little, as fans around the world, and in particular, again, in the West, were rediscovering anime and diving deeper than they ever did before. If it was just a surface level of, you know, maybe you like Dragon Ball, maybe you liked, you know, One Piece when you saw it on Toonami. Now they're watching multiple different titles. Now they're becoming full-blown anime fans in general. They're even going and checking out the manga. So now they're anime and manga fans. Where it all started was you just like the show on Cartoon Network when it had a little Toonami block.
Wow, that's a really good way to bite your downsizing argument in the ass. Like, seriously, first of all, I already pointed out that One Piece was on its 4th fucking season in the time frame you talked about in the US. And yet here you are talking about, you know, how nostalgic it is for the 20-somethings in 2012. And the first season debuted in 2004. So the earliest they would be watching it on TV would be like 15? I mean, you can be nostalgic for your freshman year of high school, but based on what you said earlier, that's not the nostalgia you're talking about.
So I say all that to say because the topic of discussion is not, hey, how did anime become popular? The topic of discussion is why 3D CG animation is going to bring about potentially the downfall of anime and manga's popularity, in particular anime, because it starts with anime and then it goes down to manga.
I like how you realized you were trailing off and saying shit that made no sense, so you just, you know, cut the clip there. Because, yeah, we're about to get to that explanation, but it's worth noting that you realized something. Manga's not mainstream, at least not by your definition. I mean, sure, there is a popularity to it, but as you said yourself, and this is using your own logic, it extends from the popularity of anime. So, while it's technically true to say that manga would be less popular if anime was less popular, 3D animation has nothing to do with what manga is presenting, so you had to catch yourself before you implied that. You know, even though you did do that.
So, one of the things that we love about this whole thing is the way it looks, the aesthetic. If I see a picture that is anime inspired or just in general, like I know it's anime, for me as a fan, I get excited. I'm like, ooh, I wonder, they got some anime stuff. Let's just say I'm shopping at a store. I'd be like, oh crap, there's actually anime related stuff in here. Awesome, because I love the aesthetic. I love the anime eyes. I love everything about anime when it comes to the design and the look and the feel of it. It just has that characteristic that makes it anime, that you know it when you see it.
Which is yet another reason why anime had a lower market share during Ben 10 and, this is the big one now, Avatar: The Last Airbender. It kind of glossed over the fact that the West was starting to replicate the anime style and do a damn good job of it, weren't ya? Oh, and of course, assuming that everyone likes anime for the same reason. Even though you're just talking about your own opinion. How refined is thine butthole? The visuals of anime are eye-catching, that's the point, and the US picked up on that, which is a reason why the visual style of anime had to evolve. And this isn't even the first time that it's evolved. Like, fuck, Dragon Ball Z does not look the same as Fist of the North Star or Trigun. Like, so many anime have changed their visual style. And notice how you were talking about the look in relation to pictures and products? You know, like figures that might be 3D renditions of 2D characters. There's a problem right there with your argument. Or 2D characters that aren't moving and therefore are indistinguishable from 3D animation. Like, seriously, other than the shadows, you take any given frame from Dragon Ball Superheroes trailer and tell me that you notice that it's in 3D. In fact, here, I'll do it for you. Yeah, tell me this motherfucker doesn't look like something Toriyama drew. Just tell me that. Tell me that. And I'll call you a fucking liar.
And that, again, is integral, I want to say, to the love in general that a lot of this generation of anime fans and manga fans have, is that commonality that we love the way it looks.
Speaking, once again, for yourself and your giant fucking ego. Especially since different anime tend to have different art styles. Like, I'm sorry. You mean to tell me that you couldn't tell a Dragon Ball character from a Bleach character? Or a Naruto character from a One Piece character if you didn't already know these series? Or a JoJo character from a Fist of the North Star? Actually, now that I think about it, that last one, that could be tricky depending on who you pick.
And that is why, whenever we see 3D CG renders in anime, we go in a massive uproar. First of all, a lot of the times the composites are terrible. Like, it looks like Lego blocks in the middle of a beautifully done 2D anime-styled show. It's like, what the hell? It sticks out like a sore thumb. But on top of that...
nothing on top of that, because that's the exact reason people get up in arms. Hell, earlier in the video, you pointed out how some people really thought the Heroes trailer looked awesome. So you already, know this. Not to nullify your point, but the whole reason people tend to complain about CG in something like Attack on Titan is because of how it stands out and doesn't look good. The same reason they would complain about bad CG in a live action show or movie as well. That being said,
it again kind of conflicts with our ideal vision of anime as a whole. It just doesn't mesh well because we grew up on 2D animation. Even if it wasn't anime per se, let's just say you were watching, I don't know, the Rugrats or something like that, you grew up accustomed to 2D animation.
There's a point here to be had. Although Rugrats is probably a bad example, and it's ironically something I was going to direct right back at you in my final thoughts, but fuck it, may as well do it now. I mean, think about it. The whole rhetoric of 3D animation being the downfall of anime is based on your own perception of 3D animation not belonging there. It's based on your own views of anime's popularity being tied to nostalgia, which is wrong. It's based on the perception that anime hasn't used 3D animation before recently, which, as I'll explain later, is wrong. It's based on the way it sounds, you not liking it because the adults changed your diapers. I'll get more into some of the stuff I'm pointing out being wrong in a minute. Trust me, but you really do sound like a big baby about the fact that computers are being involved in the animation process, and that'll become even more clear as we go along.
So put your mind frame in this aspect. Well, what about if you grew up with 3D animation? What about if you grew up with CGI being the thing that you remember and love from the early 2000s, and that was the thing that kind of hooked you to begin with, and Dragon Ball Z was CGI'd? You you probably, when, if let's just say you loved the CGI, the 3D in 2000s, then probably when everything returned in 2011, you would be nostalgic and love 3D CG animation and become a big fan of anime that have or are entirely done in that style.
Probably, yeah. I mean, the nostalgia point sounds correct on paper. That's the thing, but it's when we get into the nuts and bolts of your argument, which, by the way, really good job at avoiding going into those, by the way, that we realize why that doesn't hold up. But now let me just go ahead and debunk this too. We did have 3D animation in the early 2000s to be nostalgic about as part of the anime boom. Reboot. The Canadian 3D animated show that was aired right in the fucking middle of Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball Z. That's a big part of Toonami's transition into all anime, and was so popular that it got a revival in 2015. Which was shit for reasons other than it being a change in style to a combination 3D live action show. Although the fact that it was 3D live action is related. Like, look, this isn't a reboot review, okay? I could talk about that another time. But there was another CGI property that was incredibly important to the anime boom, especially in the way that you describe it. Toonami! All the bumpers heavily use CGI, even going all the way back to, what was the dude's name? The character from Space Ghost. They did like a CGI version of him. The lava dude. To the point where the only difference between it and the Adult Swim anime block is that branding I mentioned. Everything CGI involved. So the older anime fans are nostalgic for CGI. Forever. So much so, the Cartoon Network felt they would be better served by bringing back the CGI.
And for the future generations, assuming things continue to escalate the way they are, that's probably what they're going to start getting accustomed to, which will effectively kill our enjoyment, because the more they continue to create 3D CG animation, which is way more cost efficient than 2D animation, the more likely that even the casual anime fans right now are going to start getting lost in the shuffle and not wanting to watch or enjoy these shows anymore because it's not what they like and they can't really get into it. Now,
and I like how you play clips of B-stars in order to make that point, which will kind of indicate something else about this. You see, for a long time, anime-based video games had a major problem in that 3D models in those games looked bad. And there was really no way to faithfully recreate an anime game without making it a 2D experience. But then somebody came up with 3D modeling technique known as cell shading. It's not really a 3D modeling technique, actually. It's more so applying cell shading in 2D animation to a 3D model. And somebody just came up with a way to do that. These techniques wouldn't just become the way that we got anime games that actually had character models that looked like those from the anime in question, but also became one of the primary techniques in 2D animation used in order to cut costs. This is gonna be more relevant later, but for a long time, 2D animation has been made with 3D models. Well, kinda sorta 3D models. It's nothing new, and it was really only disguised by techniques that really just served to hide imperfections in the modeling process, thus allowing many people who were less experienced with this method of animation to learn more while taking shortcuts and still made it look good. Because hey, it's 2D, so these were concessions already in place. I mean, how the fuck do you think most anime intros with sweeping camera angles are actually created? And there's a reason why what you watch in the early 2000s doesn't use this, because these techniques either didn't exist or weren't perfected to the degree that they are now. Especially since most of the shows from the early 2000s and late 90s were actually made in the 80s, including Dragon Ball Z. Yeah, that's something a lot of people forget about DBZ. It originally aired in, the first season aired in 1989. Are you fucking kidding me? 3D modeling has actually supplanted 2D animation in a lot of cases, including in anime. But look at the way Beastars looks in your clip. The characters still have the style of 2D animation because, although they're 3D models, they use cell shading to maintain the animated look instead of attempting to look like something made by Pixar. And that's the thing. Casual fans aren't likely to call out the difference between 2D and 3D the way that I do, or the way that this is. Casual fans are more likely to say, oh wow, the animation is super smooth, and not care about this. Especially since casual fans probably also watch things other than anime and aren't as dedicated to having a 2D boner like you.
They're blending 2D and 3D styles together for certain stuff, again, like the Dragon Ball Super upcoming superheroes film or whatever. Like, so they're trying that aspect, but in general, just imagine a 10-year-old right now that gets into an anime, considering it's popular and a lot of people just enjoy anime at this point from all ages, especially here in the West now. Like, that's become a thing. Imagine a 10-year-old that is getting into anime for the first time, and he goes on Netflix and he sees the new Seven Deadly Sins film with the, younger cast and all this jazz. And they're like, yo, this is awesome. I love this because it's based on a really dope story. The story of the Seven Deadly Sins and, the Four Knights of the Apocalypse, and everything that Nakaba Suzuki, author of that series, does has been great. And they actually really fall in love with those films that are 3D CG composites. Now, you just indoctrinated somebody into the idea that 3D CG is the preferred method, because they could go from that, then they see Dragon Ball Super's new film in theaters, and that's 3D CG composite as well. Now, all of a sudden, that's their idea of what animation should be. They start to get riddled with constant projects that are coming out that have 3D CG in them, and they get indoctrinated in the idea of, well, this is my fandom, and they actually genuinely start to love and appreciate it. And then as time goes on and that becomes more of a regular thing, 3D CG, and fans that aren't as hardcore into 2D or just in general anime as a whole like us, they're probably going to be like, okay, I don't really like what anime is becoming, I'm going to fall off. I mean, it happens all the time. Whenever they change something drastically, fandoms fall off because they're like, that's not what I signed up for, that's not what I like.
Oh, so you just revealed this is actually about the downfall of yourself. Yeah, you just pointed out how 10-year-olds seeing CG in anime now will find it normal and like it. And you know what that does? Create the whole cycle that you were talking about at the beginning of this video all over again. Even if you assume that your cycle is correct, which it's not, it's going to be the kid becoming an adult and liking this. And then guess what? That's the style that we're talking about. That will be the mainstream. The people falling off aren't necessarily wrong because they have a preference, but it's not anime becoming no longer mainstream. It's anime evolving and them not keeping up because they're stuck in their own ways. Well, I can't actually speak for people in general. I can only speak for your dumbass.
So now you'll see less and less of the 2D shows that you love, the traditional animation style, and more of the 3D CG. And while that new generation upcoming will actually appreciate it, and that'll be what they interpret as anime, and I don't want to ever say, hey, I want to take that away, but it wasn't an actual organic way of it coming about. Basically, the industry is putting that as essentially their only option of, hey, this is what it is, and they're not going to want 2D. So as it goes on, you'll see less and less 2D shows, which will ultimately cut off a lot of the fandom, a lot of the popularity, a lot of the people that are into anime to begin with, and usher in this new generation, and 3D CG will be the standard, and fans like myself that love the 2D traditional stuff will be asked out, basically.
Or 2D anime will continue to be a niche market, much like manga continues to be a niche market within anime. You're also making apocalyptic assumptions. Notice how the 3D shows are still using cell shading? Yeah, it's because they want you to watch it too. And you say that it didn't happen organically because people aren't being given another option when they are. Bungo Stray Dogs is right here, you know.
And if you cut off a huge part of the market like that, that is where you will see the ultimate downfall of anime in mainstream popularity.
Wait, you mean like how the original English edits of Sailor Moon, One Piece, and others cut it off from the adult market it was intended to have as a secondary audience? You mean like that? Fuck all the way off. Like, all the way.
I love anime the way it is right now. Even some shows that may suffer from, the budgets not being there to give it the best of art and animation, such as like the Seven Deadly Sins the last couple of seasons. Nevertheless, I would still always prefer that style over a CG composite that I'm probably just not even going to watch, just because it's not something that I prefer.
So you're a baby then. Got it.
And I know you're probably thinking, oh, Fornev, you being too dramatic. You know what I'm saying? That's never gonna happen. Well, it is way more at the end of the day about business than the arts when it comes to this. Like, don't get it twisted. As much as we appreciate and we respect and I'll praise the living crap out of a great show, a Vinland Saga, you know, Attack on Titan's first 3 seasons, and even 4, the writing is still great and all that jazz for the most part, up until a certain point, but we'll get into that another time. Hey. But ultimately, the companies, it's about money. It's about business. This is why studios close down. This is why 3D is even becoming more of an option as things move forward, because with the popularity expanding of anime as well, one of the things is like, we don't have enough animators to actually put on these shows. And 3D CG, once you create the character models, you can have them do whatever, and you can use those models for 1 million episodes and not have to continue to redraw and redraw like you have to do with 2D animation. It's way more cost efficient.
Except 2D animation already has cell shading. That's where the style that allows 3D models to have 2D animated looks to them even comes from. Hell, 2D animation has been involved in reusing assets all the way back to, you know, Sailor Moon's reused transformation sequences, or Dragon Ball Z's 3-frame fight sequences. And since the 2010s models designed to look 2D have been put into a program and animated, 3D modeling isn't even new to anime. The only difference now is the fact that it's not being hidden, and the animation process is refined enough to take advantage of the fact that your 2D character is actually a 3D model.
So ultimately, yeah, money-wise, it does make more sense. If I was, let's just say, a big animation industry type of guy, don't get me wrong, as much as I love the arts or whatever, if I'm only thinking about business, it's smarter to do away with 2D animation. Less animators, less headaches, less of you hearing like, oh, the anime industry is, you know, shitting on the animators and not paying them. That won't even be a thing like that anymore, because it'll just be people creating character models and drawing backgrounds, which backgrounds don't take nowhere near as, you know, time as it does to draw constant characters moving little by little by little to get quality art and animation. So
except that's not how it's done anymore, like at all. Look, for one, this doesn't reduce the number of animators on staff for a series. If anything, some of the people who were originally involved in frame drawing have shifted over to actual animation or moved to storyboarding, and those with less versatile talent sets have been cut. More of your staff are animators because you need less people drawing and more people animating. And yes, it does reduce cost, in part because it reduces the time needed to create an episode, and in part because it reduces the overall workforce of your show. But the thing you were talking about with animators not getting compensated properly, yeah, that can still be a major fucking problem. Anime hasn't been drawn frame by frame since the 90s for the most part, possibly the 80s, with a few exceptions. Have you noticed how a lot of things after the first season of Naruto are much more crisp and fluid? That's because they use digital methods in order to make movement more consistent. And yeah, you showed the fight scene between Sasuke and Naruto. That is later in Naruto's lifespan, like right before all of the massive amounts of filler, and it uses frame by frame drawing. But there's another note about that. Did you notice like inconsistencies in some of the characters, like during that fight scene? It's part of what gives that fight scene part of its character, sure, but it's a lack of quality, and this results in an improvement in quality, and probably a lot of cases of that which you don't even realize because you pretend to understand the process when you fucking don't.
Yeah, business-wise, if I was a businessman in this industry, I would probably be salivating at the thought of getting rid of 2D animation. It just makes more sense money-wise. But the fan in me, and I'm sure a lot of people watching this as well, just shudder at the idea of, oh my god, 3D becoming the actual standard. Like, 20 years from now, it might actually happen. Right now, we could be in the early 2000s, in the Dragon Ball Z era, as all of these 3D shows are starting to come about, and 20 years from now, we might actually see it come to fruition, and that might be the thing. And hey, it is what it is. If you enjoyed 3D CG, I'm not here to tell you that you're wrong.
But you are here to tell me that it's not anime, and it's the downfall of anime because the real anime fans like you don't like it. Yeah, that's a big problem with this video. Near the end, you keep saying that you're not judgmental. You don't demand your style be the style. And now there's nothing wrong with liking 3D animation, but the rest of your words that come out of your garbage mouth indicate that you feel the exact opposite way. Anything other than hand drawing every single frame is the death of animation. Anyone who thinks otherwise is a child when you're the one being the child in this situation. And to be frank, I don't really mind that you have a preference. How, with the more fluid 3D models, they have a tendency to move heads more when the character is talking, and in some cases it looks very uncanny, at least to me, especially with B-Stars, and I personally don't like that. But I critique that show for it, because they could have done it different, and it could have been better, and it's not the entire 3D animation medium's fault. And I'm willing to acknowledge that part of my misgivings involve not being used to seeing animation at higher frame rates the way that it is in B-Stars, but I'm also willing to give it a chance. And that's kind of part of my advice. Open your mind, big guy. Open up to new possibilities. Nobody's taking away what you already have, but you should give yourself a chance to adjust to change. Because if you don't, well, that's the reason you get left behind.